Right now, let's say a very good morning to Ben Habib, chairman of Brexit Watch and former MEP, of course. Ben, very good morning to you.
Good morning, Mike.
So, I mean, who knew Bulgaria? I mean, the net gets ever wider, doesn't it? You know, stop the boats. Let's talk to France, see if they can do anything. Let's give them a load of money. Well, that didn't seem to work. Let's go to Rwanda. Let's get Rwanda to help out and take some people over there. No, not really. Bulgaria today is now the new apparent source of all of our wisdom, as is Turkey, where they're apparently manufacturing these dinghies. How bizarre.
Well, I have some sympathy, actually, with what Rishi Sunak is doing. I mean, if you want to stop people crossing the channel, the best way to do it, naturally, is to stop them entering Europe in the first place. And Robert Jenrick, I think, was in Libya a few days ago, talking to the Libyans about how they can help, how we can help break the people smuggler gangs in Libya. And, Rishi Sunak wants to do the same in Bulgaria. Bulgaria, of course, does border Turkey, and Turkey does naturally have a lot of inflow of, people from Syria and those other war-torn regions to its south. And Turkey presumably doesn't want them any more than we want them. So, they'll be ushering them on and probably turning a bit of a blind eye to what the people smugglers are up to.
Right. I seem to remember that back in the day, maybe a year or so ago, or maybe 2 years ago, when there were Kurdish refugees moving out of sort of northern Iraq into southern Turkey, there was a bit of an issue there. There were an awful lot of people in Turkey who didn't want them to come in. And then there were others who said, we're going to let them pass through Turkey and move into sort of basically other parts of Western Europe. So, I mean, Turkey has always been a kind of, cross, if you like, a bridge between, I suppose, Asia and Europe, right?
Yeah, exactly. And, people will use that bridge in order to get into Europe.
Yeah, they will. So, I mean, do you think there's some hope then that Jenrick's trip across North Africa and sort of to other parts of Africa and to other parts of Europe is going to bear some fruit, that it might actually mean if you can stop people coming into Western Europe, yes, that would be a great thing, but how?
Well, I think we need a holistic, integrated approach to breaking this influx of, what will turn out to be millions of people into Europe. And part of it is obviously breaking the smuggling gangs. Part of it is being ruthless at sea and using the laws we already have under the UN Convention of Laws of the Sea to actually turn boats back. Italy needs to turn boats back, we need to turn them back in the channel, and the Greeks need to take a robust position on it as well. And as heartless as that might sound, actually when you turn boats back and people learn that they will not succeed in making that journey in the first place, they will cease trying to make that journey. So, it's a matter of breaking the smuggling gangs, turning boats back, and then as a last resort, and this is where I think our government has got it so wrong. As a last resort, you need domestic policies, domestic laws, which allow you to deport people, agreements with other countries, so that once you have a judicial ruling in your favour to deport them, you've actually got a country, to send them back to.
Yeah. I mean, the connection with Bulgaria seems to be that could be very much the heart of the people trafficking business. They say that the business model of these trafficking criminals, it sits in Bulgaria. The Bulgarian border police have prevented 11,000 legal entries across its border with Turkey since January. So I suppose Bulgaria might be one of the first places they come to. But there's no doubt that this is a very, very sophisticated operation, isn't it?
It is. But that number, 11,000, Mike, doesn't begin to account for the hundreds of thousands that have already entered Europe this year. There's a massive influx. Italy's got a huge problem with the Mediterranean, and you've got to tackle all of it. But Bulgaria, for sure, tackle it. But you've got to tackle Libya. You've got to work with the Italians. The Italians need to get more aggressive, frankly, with the crossings. And remember, the Mediterranean is a big sea. Your territorial waters start at 12 miles out of your land. But there's nothing to stop the Italian Navy, or indeed the British Navy, taking a more proactive approach and going to the international waters between Libya and Italy and turning these boats back to Libya. They shouldn't be allowed to make this crossing in the first place. We've got to develop the backbone required to turn boats back. and, of course, break the smuggling bans.
And we've also got to change our sort of international laws, because the way that asylum was set up years and years ago, decades ago, it was not designed to face this kind of problem. Because what we know is, for example, if anybody sets off on a boat of any description and they get sort of, even if they get sort of half a mile off the coast of Libya, they can be basically rescued by a charity ship or rescued by somebody else and taken to Europe, because that's what it says in the European Convention of Human Rights. And it's a nonsense at the end of the day.
It is. I mean, the problem about, with taking refugees onto a national flag carrier boat is that once they're on that boat, they're protected by all the laws of whatever the flag carrier is. If they're a British boat, they will be protected by the European Convention of Human Rights, all the access to the European Court of Human Rights, and indeed all the processes available in the United Kingdom. That's why, you've got to turn the boats back. You can't pick up these people and then go and put them back in Libya, if you like. They've got to make that journey. Having made the journey out of Libya, they've got to make the journey back to Libya themselves. And there are some bizarre unintended consequences of national carriers having this, the benefit of national carriers laws applying to refugees they pick up. There have been instances in the past where Italian ships have actually just looked on while refugees have been in real difficulty in the water, because they didn't want to pick them up for that very reason.
Yeah.
So the European Convention of Human Rights was working against the human rights of these people who were in trouble. The most humane thing, Mike, the most humane thing, and the would-be lefty, wokey, liberal lot who want open borders need to take this on board. The most humanitarian thing is for people to know they will not be allowed to make that crossing in the first place, so they never try it. Boats have to be turned back.
Yes, I think you're absolutely right. And something that I discovered this week actually really troubled me, and you may know more about this because I know you're in Pakistan quite a lot. It turns out that there are families, more than 1,000 people, possibly 500 children as well, waiting for relocation in hotels in Pakistan, having come presumably from Afghanistan, but they're being paid for in those hotels by us, by the British government. Because they're waiting, apparently, to be brought here or to have their asylum claims processed. But why on earth are we doing that?
Well, this is symptomatic of a 20-year intervention in Afghanistan that ended up producing absolutely nothing of advantage for the United Kingdom geopolitically. We were there for 20 years. We lost 500 soldiers. We spent billions of pounds. I think the Iraq and Afghani intervention cost trillions of dollars in the end, including the money spent by the US. Massive amount of money. Nothing geopolitically to show for it. And our exit from the country was as bad as our intervention. We didn't know the US was leaving. We'd been their lapdogs for 20 years doing their bidding. We didn't know they were leaving. When they left, we discovered this by, the absence of troops one morning, and our exit then became a complete disaster, including the protection of the people who'd assisted us and put their lives in danger by allying themselves effectively with with NATO troops. This was a NATO operation in Afghanistan. Allying themselves with NATO troops, acting as interpreters, acting as providers of information, go-betweens, and so on. And we have taken, I think, about 24,000 Afghanis into the United Kingdom, but there are about a similar number left trapped either in Afghanistan, and of course their plight is very dangerous because they're known to the Taliban, and if they're not already dead, their lives are in mortal danger. But then you have this other group of people, quite a large number of people stuck in Pakistan, unable to exit Pakistan, not in Pakistan legally.
Right.
If they leave their hotel, some of these people will be arrested by Pakistani law enforcement.
Right.
And the whole thing, Mike, has been a disaster. And when we look at the migration problems we're experiencing in the UK, we mustn't ever forget that at the heart of those problems, to a significant extent, is failed foreign policy over 20 years. Interventions that we've made in Afghanistan, Iraq, David Cameron in
Libya as well, really.
Yeah, and David Cameron enticing that Arab Spring, which destabilized Libya. We've still got protracted civil war going on in Libya. Syria is still a disaster zone. They very nearly created the same problem in Saudi. Egypt came incredibly close to imploding as a country. Bahrain similarly had problems. We've got to stop these ill-considered international interventions under US hegemony and having no real genuine seat at the table when it comes to making decisions, as we've just seen with the Afghan situation. And, you know, without wishing to digress too much, the way we left Afghanistan was a huge signal to Putin that we're weak, that we've lost the stomach for a fight. And I'm sure one of the reasons that he chose to attack Ukraine so soon after we left Afghanistan was because he was emboldened by our failure in Afghanistan. So, I mean, there are huge lessons to come out of Afghanistan, not least of which is the one we've just been discussing, which are the people who've helped us have effectively been stranded there. It's awful.
Yeah, it's ridiculous. The whole thing is absolutely bonkers. But listen, Ben, good to talk to you. Thanks very much indeed. Ben Habib, chairman of Brexit Watch there, and former MEP, of course, as well.